Welcome, I'm Macky Hall, and one of Illustrator's great strengths is its ability to create and layer strokes, fills, and gradients. All you need to know is where to go do it. And that's what this tutorial and tutorial series is all about. This is part of a 4-part piece showcasing one of my favorite tools in Adobe Illustrator, the appearance window. Those 4 parts are creating color swatches, layering strokes, fills, and gradients, using stroke to create 3D shapes, and part 4, adding and managing editable effects to objects and groups. Yeah, we're going to build a bit on the first part, but this piece stands on its own, no problem. Watch the whole series or use just what you need. I'll even throw in how to build a complex gradient and add it to your color swatch. With that being said, let's get started. All right, let's go ahead and pick up where we left off. But before we do, let's go ahead and go over some of the specifics of the page that we created. First of all, we're using the Essentials Classic workspace. In order to activate the Essentials Classic workspace, all we need to do is go up to the top right-hand corner, select Switch Workspace, and select Essentials Classic. As usual, I use this workspace because it's the one that works best for me. Now, if you want to use your own workspace, by all means do so. We'll be sure to get you where you need to go. Next thing I want to mention is our artboard. We've got a single artboard at 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels, and it's set to the RGB color mode. There's one single artboard. Next, I want to mention that we're using the bottom center of the screen to highlight hotkey recommendations, key command recommendations, and tips and tricks. If you're working on an Apple or Mac device, anytime we make any key command recommendation containing the control key, use the command key instead. Again, command equals control. All right, let's get started. First thing, since this is the focus of our tutorial, is where do you access the appearance window? Well, there's 2 ways to get to it. First way is going to Window, Appearance, selecting that, or of course, selecting Shift F6. Notice where the appearance window pops up. Additionally, if you're using the Essentials Classic or comparable workspace, all you need to do is select the appearance window icon on the right side, and that window will open back up. Now that we've got that, let's get started with our first shape and demonstrating what we can do with the stroke tool. First things first, let's go over to our rectangle tool, and let's right-click on it, and let's go ahead and select the polygon tool. Once we've done that, let's click and release anywhere along our artboard, and let's keep the sides at 6, and let's change the radius from 50 pixels to 200 pixels. We'll go ahead and click OK. There you go. Now, right now, I've got my colors set to dark orange because that's what our previous tutorial left it at. However, let's go ahead and change that to our default color mode, which is a white fill and black stroke. All you need to do is go over here to your color palettes, click on that, and there you go. Now that we've got that, let's go ahead and increase our stroke thickness. Of course, you can adjust the stroke thickness on the top left corner of your top bar right here. However, you can also use your appearance window to do that. Notice with your shape selected, you've got your black stroke and default white fill. Notice that with the stroke, it's set at 1 point. All you need to do is click on that. And what we can do is we can increase that point total to 10 if we wanted to. Of course, you can just double click on the number itself and enter in 10, hit return, and then there you go. Now that we've got that, that works pretty well. Before we do anything else, let's go ahead and create an open shape. Let's grab the pen tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an L open shape so that we can talk about the stroke tool through the appearance window. Let's go. First things first, I'm going to grab my pen tool and I'm just going to click right next to my hexagon, draw a line straight down holding my shift key. And then I'm just going to go to the right just a little bit. And there you go. Now I want to deselect my shape. Of course, I can go to my selection tool and deselect it. What I can also do is press the control key. Notice when I do so, my direct selection tool comes up temporarily. I can click on my artboard anywhere, and then I can release my control key, and my pen tool will come back up. That's pretty handy. That's just a little bit of an aside note that really helps you out down the road. That being said, let's go ahead and grab our selection tool. Let's go ahead and drag across both our hexagon and that L that we've created. Now that we've got that, let's go ahead and open up our stroke window. Of course, you can open it up lots of different ways. The appearance window, to me, is easily the most handy. All you need to do is click on the word stroke, Check it out. There you go. Notice that we've got a black stroke on both shapes at 10 points thick. Now let's go ahead and play with the cap really quick. Notice that we've got the butt cap set. If we select the round cap, notice that it adjusts on the open shape. Likewise, when we select projecting cap, it only changes on the open shape. Well, that totally makes sense considering there's only caps on open shapes. Let's go back to the default butt cap right there. Now let's talk about corners really quickly. Note that we've got miter join by default. Let's go ahead and click round join and notice that on both of them, the corners go round. We can also go one more and we can select bevel join. And again, the corners on both shapes become beveled just like that. Let's go back to our default corner. That works fine right there. Now next, let's go ahead and talk about align stroke. Right now, our stroke is aligned to center. You can see it defaulting right there. Let's go ahead and select align stroke to the inside. And notice that only on the closed shape that the stroke will align to the inside. Likewise, if I select align outside, the closed shape aligns to the outside. The open shape does not do anything. It makes sense if you look at the open shape, is because there's no inside by default or outside by default. That being said, let's go ahead and set our align stroke back to center. You'll notice that our closed shape changes. If we want to select a dashed line, by all means, we can click on that. And we can change the dashes and the gaps as we so choose. Go ahead and deselect that. We can always select arrowheads if we wanted to. And notice right away we can do a start and an end in a variety of fashions. In this case though, let's go right back to none and we are good to go. Finally, we can always change profile on our open and closed shapes. We'll just go with profile number 1. And you can see how that operates. In this case, however, let's just go ahead and leave it at uniform because that's what we're going to be working on. Let's go ahead and deselect our stroke and then deselect our shapes. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and get rid of our open shape. We don't need that. Let's instead focus on our closed shape and how we can layer strokes upon that. Let's go ahead and drag across, select delete, and let's move on our way. First thing we're going to do is we're going to select our shape one more time. And then let's go ahead and bevel our corners to about 40 points. All we need to do is access that bevel point right there. Let's go ahead and click our shape all the way into just around 40 somewhere. 40.31 works just fine with me. Next, what we're going to do is let's rotate our hexagon 90 degrees. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go hover over the right-hand corner until our rotate icon pops up. Let's click and drag, holding our shift key to lock it into 45-degree angles. And let's bring it around to 45 degrees, just like that. Now, since we're doing a little bit of tidy work ahead of our work, let's go ahead and take our piece and align it center horizontally and vertically using our align tools. If you don't see that, generally our align tools are available at the top bar. You can see it right here. However, if you don't see your align tools, all you need to do is go to Window, Align, or Shift F7. From there, all you need to do is center align horizontal and then center align vertical. And let's go ahead and close that window and you are good to go. Now, since we've already created our color swatch group, we're going to take advantage of that for our strokes and our layering. Well, let's go ahead and take a look. First things first, let's go ahead with our shape selected. Let's go ahead and double click on our stroke color. Once we've got that, notice that we've got various colors being associated with various swatches. However, if you go down to the bottom, this is the color swatch that we've created. This is a tutorial color swatch that we created in our previous tutorial. Now that we've got that, let's go ahead and change the color of our stroke from black. Let's go ahead and make it dark orange. We'll click on this one right here. And there you go. Notice straight away that our color has changed to dark orange. With that in mind, let's close our stroke window by clicking anywhere on our artboard just once. Notice we've got our stroke associated with our shape. So how do we add multiple strokes? All you need to do in your appearance window is scroll down to the bottom left-hand corner and select Add New Stroke. Notice that when I do that, a new stroke appears directly beneath the one I've got selected. In this case, let's go ahead and select our new stroke right here. And let's click one more time, and then let's select medium orange from our tutorial color swatch group. Let's click on that. And notice if I clear off my color swatch, you can't see it. The reason why is because the strokes are layered. Now, if you want to see that color swatch, all you need to do is increase the stroke thickness. Let's take this up from 10. We can arrow it up or just double click, write in 20, hit return. And notice now that you can see our new stroke directly beneath of our old one. Now that we've got that, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and continue, and let's add a third stroke color. This time around, we're going to go light orange. All you need to do is add another stroke, or if you've got a stroke selected, you can always select duplicate selected item. You can do that. And you'll notice that our third stroke now appears beneath our second stroke. With that in mind, let's go ahead and change our stroke. Let's just click on that twice, and then let's select light orange from here. Now, if you deselect our stroke window, again, by clicking anywhere on or around the artboard off your stroke window, notice right away again that you can't see the light orange stroke. To make it visible, we can do a couple of things. We can select our stroke and we can drag it in front of any of the other strokes. Let's drag it all the way to the front. And notice that now you can see it. The reason why it was not visible is, as you can see, the stroke thickness is 20 points. And when it was behind your second stroke, which was at 20 points, you just can't see it. Now with that in mind, let's go ahead and drag it back behind our second stroke, just like that. Let's double click on our stroke thickness. And again, let's increase that thickness from 20 to 30. Now right away, you can see that all of our strokes are visible. Also notice that right away, they're centered. Now, if we open up the stroke window to all of our strokes, note that we can change the stroke alignment to our shapes. That's what we're going to do right now. All you need to do, let's start with our top. We'll click on that stroke, and let's change the line stroke to outside. Let's do that for all three. Let's go ahead and deselect our shape. And note that now we've got that hexagon with our darkest stroke in the middle, and then our next two strokes to the outside getting progressively lighter. That looks pretty good right there, and that's exactly how you manage your strokes. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and play with our fill a little bit. First things first, let's go ahead and select our shape, and then let's go ahead and double click on our fill. Now with that in mind, once we double click on our fill, you'll notice that we've got all of our color swatches by default becoming available. But that's not the only thing we've got available. Of course, if we know our colors and we have our color swatch, by all means, we can select them right there. However, if we want to look at different colors, and this, by the way, is also applicable to your strokes, you can select your color mixer if you've got the formula or the hex code. Now, this is set to RGB, but you can always change the formula or the color mode by just clicking on your drop-down menu, and you've got everything available from grayscale to RGB, hue, saturation, brightness, CMYK, web safe RGB, and you can even create a new swatch. Now, with that being said, we've already got our swatches, so we don't want to mess with this. Additionally, what we can do is we can click on our gradient tool right there, and we can play with gradients. That's going to come up handy in just a second, but first, let's go back to our swatches, and then let's just pick out any color that we want to use. In this case, let's go dark blue. And notice right away, by selecting our different colors, we're changing the fill just like that. Again, we'll go back to the dark blue and we'll take pause right there. Now, in this case, what I want to do is I want to show you a little bit of an advanced move. Now that we know how to do our fill, let's go ahead and deselect our color swatches. I did want to mention one thing about our shape. Of course, under the appearance window, we can change the opacity of our entire shape. All we need to do is click opacity, maybe change that to 50, and notice that the entire shape's opacity becomes 50. In this case, I want to go back to 100. Let's hit enter, and there we go. We're back in business. Now note, we can also do something else. If we open up any of the strokes, perhaps, or the fill, notice that we've got opacity visible right there. We can always change that. In this case, let's change the fill's opacity from 100 to 50. And notice right away the change takes effect. In this case, let's go back to 100. Let's click off it, and we're back to dark blue. Now that we've got that done, let's go ahead and close that drop down. Let's select our color one more time, and instead, let's go ahead and change our fill from a swatched color to a gradient that we're going to create right now. Here's how you do it. All you need to do is select your gradient right here, and let's go ahead and pick our gradient. If you click on the drop down right here, we've got all kinds of gradients available to us. In this case, let's just select white, black. Note right away the change becomes immediate. Now there's lots of options available with our gradient. Of course, we can click on a round gradient. Note right here we've got linear gradient selected. We can also go to round, and then we can also go to a freeform gradient if we'd want. We can just drag these elements around right here to give us that shape that we want. In this case, however, let's go back to our linear gradient, and let's go ahead and get started playing with this. First things first, let's go ahead and edit the colors of our gradient. This is how you do it. All you need to do is go to your first gradient slider point. Let's go ahead and double click. And then let's go down into our color swatches. Now, if it's not selected, maybe you've got your color mixer selected, just go ahead and select your swatches right here. Now from your swatches, all you need to do is go down to the swatch that you want. In this case, again, we're using our color tutorial swatch group. And let's go ahead and select dark blue. Click on that. That looks pretty good. Instead, let's go ahead and select our medium blue. It's exactly what we want right there. Let's click off of our swatches so we can see what it looks like. Now, the next thing what we can do is let's go ahead and drag that point. What we can do is just click and drag it manually, or what we can do is let's change the location just by entering in the location. In this case, I'm going to double click on it. Let's go ahead and change the location from 20 or whatever to 40%. Notice that our slider has moved to that point. Next thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and change this slider point color to our dark blue. Let's double click on that and let's change that. Once again, we'll select over here and let's select dark blue. Notice that our color has changed to dark blue. Let's deselect our swatch and then let's go ahead and move this point. All we need to do is make sure it's selected and we can drag it or we can move that location. In this case, because I want a real sharp gradient, I'm going to move this location to 40.1. Notice we've got that nice sharp edge. That's exactly what we're looking for right there. Now let's go ahead and continue from here. Let's go ahead and add another gradient point. What I want is I want my colors to be staggered. So in this case, what I'm going to do is add another gradient point. All we need to do is click just beneath the gradient slider. You'll see that plus sign right there. I'll click and release. And then let's take this point right here and change the location from wherever it is. Let's take it to 45%. Looks pretty good right there. Let us continue. We're going to make that sharp dark blue to light blue gradient once again. Let's click anywhere beneath our gradient slider. Let's double click on that. Let's go to medium blue. Looks pretty good right there. Let's click off of our swatch and then let's change this location to 45.1. Again, making it that sharp edge. I love that right there. That looks really good. Let's go ahead and continue from here. Now that we've got that, let's go ahead and click once again. This is going to determine the end of that light blue. And let's go to 55 right here. Let's just take it to 55%. That looks pretty good right there. And then let's go ahead and start our blue gradient point. Again, by clicking beneath that, let's double click. Let's go dark blue. Click off of our swatches and let's change this location to 55.1. That looks pretty good right there. Let's do it one more time. Let's go ahead and go right beneath our slider again. Let's change this location to 60%. And then let's go ahead and add another point. Double click on that, change it to light blue. And let's change this to 60.1. We'll click off it. And you can see how easy it is to change this. Let's go on over. Let's do it one more time on this color. Let's double click. And let's change this location to 65. And then let's go one more time to do one last hit at dark blue. All you need to do is double click on that. Let's go dark blue. And let's change this location right here to 65.1. Let's click off of it. And there you go. That's exactly the type of gradient that we want. Now, if I wanted to edit this further, perhaps instead of using a linear gradient, we can always change to a round gradient. That's got an interesting look to it. Of course, we can do that. Now, in this case, I do like the linear gradient. That looks good. I don't like the angle though. Now, of course, we can change how our gradient moves just by selecting any of those points right there. However, in this case, all I want to do is just rotate my gradient just a little bit. Let's double click on the angle. And let's change that angle from 0 to 60 degrees, just like that. It's exactly what we're looking for right there. And if you deselect your shape, I'll grab my selection tool and I'll deselect my shape. That's what we've got right there. Let me show you one more thing. Let's go ahead and select our shape and let's select our fill one more time. Now that we've got that, let's go back to our gradients right here. And then what we can do is we can save our gradient. Check it out. All you need to do is click on the drop down right here and then go to the bottom and select Add to Swatches. Now that it's been done, let's go back to our swatches and you can see our new gradient right here. All we need to do to add it to our swatch, of course, is we can just click and drag it right into our template right there, and it's been added right there. If I want to rename it, just double click on it, and then we can change our gradient to whatever we need. Let's call it blue gradient. Now, oftentimes when we do that, note that the gradient angle changes. That's absolutely no problem. Again, all I need to do is go back to my gradients. Let's change that gradient angle from 0, like it was before, to 60. Let's click on it. Let's deselect, and there you go. One more time, let's deselect our shape. And for this piece, part 2, we are done. Nice job. Now you know just a little bit more about the appearance window and how to play with strokes, fills, and gradients. Now, if you've got time, check out the rest of the pieces in the tutorial, and I promise it'll make a difference for you and your workflow. By the way, check the channel. It's all there. Now, with that being said, comment, like, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Peace.